In this video, we're going to talk about the very significant effect filtration can make on a system.
This video is brought to you by Yellow Jacket.
About 10 years ago, I put in a communicating system, and I believe it's still on YouTube. And I want to say I called it Amanaland. But I made several videos in this series called Amanaland. Not all of them were of this particular house or system, but a few of them, I don't remember which ones. But if you go back or just search Amanaland, you should find those videos. In these videos, I was putting in these communicating systems that were Amana branded, and I found out something that I didn't know. They're extremely sensitive to static pressure. Now, there's a lot of systems out there that probably have excessive static pressure and very few that have too little static pressure, but that's also an issue that you can have. We've had motors overheat because there was so little static pressure on them and they were set at too high of a speed that they actually overheated and would shut down on thermal overload. I didn't know that it could even occur until around 15 years ago when we had a large commercial York unit that was just blowing out across this open event space. Didn't have any of the ductwork on it. It was actually going to have a duct sock put on it. Didn't have anything on it. So it was set so high in speed that there was not enough resistance and it ended up going too hot too quickly. Once we lowered the speed, we could do a better job there and it wouldn't overheat. It can happen. That was on the commercial side. Not so sure it would happen that way on the residential side, since those were belt-driven motors and we have direct drive in residential, for the most part. So I installed these systems at this house, and there was 2 or 3 return grills, and when I started them up, everything was going okay. There were no error codes, which is what you run into on communicating systems. You get lots of codes. Sometimes it's just like being overwhelmed with different stuff depending on what's going on, but these were good to go. So I started these units up, they ran, but later on, I got a call that they weren't running properly. They were starting to throw codes. And there was one simple reason why they started to throw this particular code. I can't remember what it is for Amana, but it's like, maybe it's like B03 or B00, something like that. It was a blower code. And it was because we had switched the filters, or someone had switched the filters from the nice spun glass, fiberglass filters that are really not that restrictive to pleated filters. These allergen type filters you might see at Lowe's where they say we're going to save your life with this filter, but they're not saving your life. They're introducing an extreme amount of static pressure to the system. And these communicating systems, they will not tolerate it. Once they sense that it's too much static pressure, it changes the airflow enough that it's going to say, all right, we're shutting down for safety purposes because the ductwork is blocked for some reason. You don't want that on any system, but communicating system is one of the few that will actually shut down. Now, on an old standard system, it will actually run and run and run, but it'll have a few different issues that will manifest. Let's say it's an air conditioning, and we have a piston-driven system. The piston is the metering device and cooling, and what will happen is the lack of airflow that pleated filter introduces to the system will now manifest itself as a low suction pressure and a low suction temperature. So low superheat, low suction pressure. There's not enough air moving across that evaporator coil to help that change of state in the refrigerant from full liquid to liquid gas mixture in the inlet tube to full gas when it exits the evaporator coil. There's just not enough air going across it because it's being cut off by that filter. It's doing a great job of filtering at the expense of other parts of the system. Now if we go to a TXV system, the TXV is going to be able to adjust a little bit. So what does a TXV do? Let's say a TXV wants to keep a certain superheat. Let's say it wants to keep a superheat of 10 leaving an evaporator coil. The temperature on the coil is going to plummet, it's going to get colder, and the TXV is going to basically, we'll say recognize, it's not AI or anything, but it's going to know through the way it works that the superheat's going down. So what it will do is it will actually lower the pressure by closing that little valve in the TXV, and once it closes that valve, it'll lower the pressure and the superheat will go back up. So there will be a balance then. Knowing that, you know that you'll have less refrigerant in the coil, you'll have less capacity, and other issues may arise. So in summary, the TXV will try to make adjustments, but it'll manifest itself within reason with a normal superheat and lower suction pressure. TXVs have their limits. So at a certain limit, everything is going to start plummeting. But with a piston, since a piston is kind of a dumb device, it doesn't make any adjustments for temperature, everything's going to fall down right off the bat. If it gets blocked enough, that filter gets loaded. You could even have freezing up starting at the evaporator coil going all the way outside, which is pretty common. Broken blower, bad filter, clogged filter, you'll have a freeze up. Sometimes the communicating system will catch that and shut everything down, and that's the nuisance of communicating, but it's trying to protect the system. But it will shut it down periodically, and you'll be out at the house maybe more often than you normally would be because there's more shutdowns, because the machine actually recognizes a problem and knows that if the machine runs during this particular crisis, it could damage components. It doesn't want that to happen. So a little bit annoying, but also a good thing in the same regard. What do you think about that, guys? And while we're talking about this, I mentioned that there was going to be another giveaway this month, and here we go. These are refrigerant recovery pliers from Yellow Jacket. They are brand new on the market. You see there's a tap right there, and basically you'll tap into a line by clamping down on it there like that, and you could recover refrigerant from a system. Typically these are used on enclosed systems, small systems, refrigeration stuff, but you can use these in a lot of instances. I've actually needed them in the field doing commercial and residential work because sometimes systems don't have all those accesses and you can't reach them like they once could when the unit was new. So it's nice to have those. Now, I'm probably going to add some stuff beyond these particular pliers because I know these particular pliers are not going to lure all of you in. You might need something else. So I'll work on that. But make sure you're commenting on every video this month, June 2024, to make sure you are entered to win. Because I'll pick one video at the end of the month, then pick comments from that video and find our winner. So make sure you do that. My name is Zack. This is HVAC Shop Talk. I'll see you guys and gals on the next one. And God bless all of you.
Save 8% off your order at TruTechTools.com by using the Shop Talk discount code.